Hi, Church. Pastor Michael here, recording from my house. So please excuse any of the background noise and the scribbles that are all over the Bible verses here. It's hard to have a chalkboard with kids. Um, I think in this time, some of us may be asking, where is God? And I think that's a fair question to ask because we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and I think there are lots of places in the Bible that remind us that God is actually with us. I mean, Jesus' last words in Matthew chapter 28 is, "I am with you always, even to the end of the age." And in Hebrews, we're reminded that in Hebrews 13, we're reminded that God says, "I will never fail you. I will never abandon you." And Romans 8 is a great place to go where Paul just reminds us how nothing can separate us from God's love. And these verses are places that I go to, especially when I need some personal uplifting, um, when I feel like my sin has caused me to be far from God. These are some of the places I go. Uh, but where would we go maybe when we're looking at a global pandemic? Does the Bible have anything to say about something of that scale? Where is God in this moment? For me, I actually like to turn to the prophet of Ezekiel. Now, Ezekiel was a prophet who lived in Babylon. He was part of the exiled community there. And the way Babylon had done it is over a number of years, they took three different groups of exiles. And the last one was when the majority of the kingdom of Judah got taken into exile. And Ezekiel was part of the second group that went there. And while he was there, God gave him this vision and brought him to the temple, the place where God dwelt, where his presence was. And God said, "Listen, I'm done here. I'm done with this nation that is being idolatrous, that isn't following me." And God's presence leaves the temple and it goes out to the east gate of the city of Jerusalem and takes Ezekiel with him and then says to Ezekiel, I want you to give this message to the people in exile, the people who are already there. This happens in Ezekiel chapter 11. He writes essentially that while you've been in exile, some of your family members that are still here have said, you know what? Since they're gone, obviously God wants to bless us with their land. He wants, because God's presence is here in Israel, and that's where his promise still rests. And God says to Ezekiel, I want you to give this message. Although I have scattered you in the countries of the world, I will be a sanctuary to you during your time in exile. I, the sovereign Lord, will gather you back from the nations where you've been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel once again. Um, Remember that God had promised this land to them, and they considered the land of Israel a deep connection to the promise, the covenant promise of God. So God was saying, in essence, listen, I'm going to take care of you even when you're far away, and I'm going to eventually bring you back. And then God leaves the city of Jerusalem and goes out east. And I think what God is doing in this moment is saying, you have associated me with being present in the temple, but I am coming out to Babylon. I am leaving, and I'm actually coming to wherever you are. So for those who are already in exile, they should know that God is going to be with them. And for the majority who are yet to be exiled, who would be coming, God is actually there before they get to Babylon. And I think that's where God is in the midst of this time that we find ourselves in. He's right here with us in the thick of things. grieving as we grieve, mourning as we mourn, but also being our sanctuary. So, church, take comfort that God does not abandon us. He is here with us. He's always been here with us, and He will never leave us.